Welcome to Food for Action. I am here again. Oh, let me turn this. I forgot about the AC. Let me get rid of that. All right. Oh, forgot about something else too, which is awesome that I need, and that is music. Uh, Been doing a lot of last minute work here for tonight's Food for Action episode. A lot of people that I've invited to stop by, a lot of posts, and a lot of comments, a lot of people that I need to make you aware of that are probably friends that we share on Facebook and other social media platforms, but most importantly, Facebook. And a lot going on. Congratulations, Kamala Harris, on being the VP candidate on the Democratic ticket with Joe Biden. That's freaking awesome. We'll talk a lot more about that as well. Let's see. Right now, I am going to pipe in some music because I found a couple good stations.
Like, he's been my guardian angel.
And I definitely want to have some music happening. Hold on a second.
From here of Jerry. Her answer is rooted in work before COVID-19. She says Jerry would always sit right next to his client.
Okay, sorry about that.
Client, like, this is
All right. Whoops. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So a lot is going on today. Let's see, a lot is going on. I am going to be talking about lots of things that hopefully are important to everyone. And again, a lot of people that I've invited to stop by, even my daughter might stop by today because she brought up a very important subject that a lot of people and more importantly, a lot of young people are dealing with, that extends itself to them based on this whole systemic and racism that's occurring still to this day in this country and all over the world. Again, we're streaming on Facebook, we're streaming on YouTube, and we're streaming on Twitch at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty awesome too. And I'm trying to find this hip hop station that I had on, and then hold on a second. Oh, this is crazy TV. But anyways, so let me thank everybody who is tuning in now and all of those who will tune in shortly. There's a lot of people that tell me that it takes them like till 7:30 or longer to be able to get linked up for some reason. I don't know if that's because of traffic and because of people coming in and out or whatever, but so we are going to definitely take the necessary time to make sure that that everybody gets to take part in this conversation. Again, let me go over and read the mission statement, because I think that's one of the most important things to have established for all of those people who write these ugly comments to me about their views about either claiming that racism doesn't exist, or I mean, there's so many things. It's so bizarre. But yeah, there's many people who literally, I was going through it today with people that believe that systemic racism isn't even a thing, and try to say that they have black friends that tell them that it doesn't exist. It's really crazy, and but this is actually something that's going on, and so hopefully I will be able to provide enough information so that people will understand that this is not a joke. That this is not an attention grab, that this is literally something that we're dealing with in this country, and that is a thing called systemic racism. And outright racism in America. And so, and it has led to the pain, the oppression, the hurt, harm, mentally, physically, and even lives lost. Which also today I will be, as I told you Sunday, from this point forward, each show we're going to focus and bring attention to one of the lives that we've lost, because there's so many people in the white community that believe that it's only a few people. It's only the people that they've seen lately. So I have hundreds and hundreds of people, several different people on different Instagram, social websites, networking websites, and so on, have helped contribute to this list so that I could have much more stats than what I already had. So, so I'll be focusing on a different person to have them be remembered and acknowledged by whoever is to tune in, either live or if you catch up with the live stream later on either the page, the Food for Action page, or the or here if you want to scroll back through, or on YouTube later, or on Twitch. So yeah, so first we'll do the mission statement, and the mission statement is that, and so people understand, if you're new to this, you understand the purpose of this. And hold on, my headache is killing me, so I got to do the glass switch. Sorry. Okay, so thank you. That's way better. Okay, so so the purpose of this whole live stream is to acknowledge and express the racial divide, racism, oppression, exploitation, systemic racism, violence against Black women, Black men, Black youth in the United States and all over the world. It is also to be a hope that we will proactively help create a path through this conversation, which is food for action, but from thought to action. Hopefully this will produce that, and it will create a path to a true united state in America, so that the state of America will not be of such hate and division and harm, and that we will at some point in the future, hopefully nearer future than later, be a united American state as a country. So that is the mission statement, and I will do that each episode just to make sure that if anybody has not heard that, that they will eventually hear that. So what I want to do first is I want to throw out a few statistics that you can get from any government website. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that people understand that if you go to the Department of Justice or any government website that is not Democrat or Republican, but you can go to other websites as well, I want to throw out some statistics that I believe are very important for people who like to throw around the comment black on black crime. I want to first say that in this country, as of the statistics for 2020 are not out yet, but as of the statistics up to 2019, which reported as of last week in many, you can just Google and they will, all the sites will come up, so I don't even have to list them. At this point, I want to make sure that you understand that white on white crime, which is not a term that people use for some reason. I don't understand why it is so comfortable for people to, I mean, it's the rebuttal for everything that is spoken about racism, especially by Black people. When we speak about this, I get it all the time. I can post these things for you. But the first thing people want to say is when we talk about racism or we talk about police brutality or so on, the first thing they say is, well, what about black on black crime? Well, let me be clear. In America, of a population of I think it was 2.3 whatever the heck million crime as far as crime rate. We are looking at first of all, the black population only makes up 13.4% of the population. Hispanic population is 23%. So that's first and foremost. Second, I went over the crime rate statistics when I was talking about the jail, the business of prison, and so on. I went over that, so you can go back to that episode, which was 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, 2 episodes ago, and you can go over that information. But you'll see the statistics and how they are far prejudicial and racist, the way that the farming of prisoners goes in favor of being unfair to black folks and brown folks. But a statistic that's always left out, which is very important, is that white on white crime, 85% of white crime, in other words, or harm to white folk, is done by white folks. So when people are so anxious to point out black on black crime, maybe we need to start saying white on white crime. I mean, if we're going to do a balance here, we want to balance things out and make things make sense instead of throwing things out that have nothing to do with another. Like if I'm talking about systemic racism and then you talk about black on black crime, those two subjects, they're not part of each other, but let's do two equal subjects. Let's go white on white crime and black on black crime, and let's have that productive conversation. That would be helpful to this whole learning process and hopefully bridging the gap process and understanding process. So that is the first statistic that I wanted to bring out. But I also want to make sure that everybody understands, you know, when, you know, people try to say the black on black crime, people try to, you know, when there's peaceful protest and they see black folk, and there's white folks doing it too, but when they do see, you know, an element of folks doing vandalism or whatever who are not part of the peaceful protest, but they're just people who join in and try to convolute the issue. And so, but because they're just up to no good. When those folks, white, black, and other, when they join in and try to bring upon harm to the peaceful protest by doing those bad things, then, you know, people always start to throw out all kind of things about, you know, reverse racism or just how violent black folks are. So I wanted to make sure that people understand that there's a big thing that's missed in these conversations, and that is that when we want to talk about why things are the way they are, you remember that in the beginning of this country, racism was something that was imposed upon black people. This was not something that was traded back. Like black people weren't imposing that on white people, and then white people were imposing it on black people. It wasn't some kind of tit for tat. It wasn't some kind of thing where you did it to me, I did it to you. That's not what was going on. It was one group of people, white people, that were imposing slavery upon black people and racism upon black people and making black people less than people, making them a product, making them a property. And so that was being done to them. So what happens a lot of times when we talk about these things today is that when we're being hurt and we're expressing these things, and some people express them in a positive way, some people express them in a negative way. I like to believe that I'm one of the people that's expressing it in a positive way. But a lot of people are stuck in this place that because they have no access to a way out, and so they get stuck into situations like gangs or selling drugs or stealing. Again, we all have free will, so we choose these things, and if we choose to do bad things, then we suffer the consequences for those things. But the point is that there's an underlying issue here, which is that these actions, unexcusable as they may be, are a product of what has been done to a whole portion of society. If the same avenues and the same opportunities and the same quality of life was afforded to Black and brown people and people in lower socioeconomical areas and underserved areas, if the same opportunities and avenues were open and the same financial structure, the same, like I said, socioeconomical structure, the same opportunities, availability to education, educational and technology, and all the things that I've mentioned before, if these things were available, then maybe, just maybe, the odds of choosing right paths instead of wrong paths would be the first choice for people in these communities. But white people in white communities, people that are in these other communities outside of this who don't get to experience this, don't understand that choice, because you don't have to make that choice. There's never a moment, and I'm not saying that there aren't some white people that have to struggle, but I'm saying that for the most part, and usually the people that have so much to say, the people who have deemed themselves the authorities on all things Black lives somehow or another, and all things racism, even though they've never walked in the shoe of racism, being a target of racism in their lives, but they have so much to say, which I'm going to give you some examples of during this time together. But they are self appointed authorities and judges and juries about how Black people should feel and how we should accept those challenges that we've been given that you've not been given. Is way beyond. I can't conceive it. I don't understand how people put themselves in a position of that kind of authority to believe that they can judge circumstances that they know nothing of. I'm so confused. Look, first and foremost, you're not in Black skin. So because you're not in Black skin or brown skin, then you're not going to experience being oppressed as a Black person. You can experience being poor as a white person, or living in a underserved neighborhood as a white person, but you're still not Black. And so because you're not Black, there is an instant difference of experience. And the difference is huge. It's ginormous, as I like to say. It's not just some simple little difference of, some like minuscule difference, like of eating a Lay's potato chip and a freaking Ruffles or something. That's not the difference. It's a human perception difference. I mean, it's like I was trying to explain Sunday. It's something as simple as knowing that from as little kids, we're taught right out the gate through TV shows, through comic books, through school books, through whatever. When you see a picture of the villain is usually wearing black. And when you see the picture of the person dressed in white, that person is usually the hero. Well, something like that, although it is just an illustration, maybe on a page or maybe in a movie, but that's a concept that little people, and sometimes, unfortunately, big people, have ingrained in their minds. And sometimes we have that ingrained in our minds because we're taught as Black people those same things. And we're not taught all the wonderful, amazing things that we did. We're not taught all the things that are coming out now about how there were kings and there were Black kings and princes and royalty that were here and were what's the word? Were I can't even think of the word. They were discovering America and so on before there was a Christopher Columbus or any of that. Before slavery and so on, there was before white people even made their thoughts to get so. So the point is that so having be brought up, raised to have it ingrained in your learning, programmed in your learning that things that are Black are bad, things that are white are good. They even do it now. Look, when people talk about goth, it's like, well, we're going to wear all black clothes and we're going to black clothes and we're going to whatever. Well, and then that's considered bad. So it's even people have even chosen to take that description, that color description, and do that. So I remember walking down the street, and this is even as a youngster, where I was lighter skinned than I am now as a kid, because I never would go out in the sun and whatever. But as a kid, I remember even being lighter skinned, but I wasn't white. And I remember watching white people move cross to the other side of the street. Even when my own mom, who is white, was there, because my dad was there and my dad is Black. And so it's just, there's so many baffling things, so much more than that. And I'm going to definitely make sure that I take certain days and I direct them strictly towards that thing of the system of learning, whether it's in school or in communities or in media, TV, radio, movies, so books, whatever, comic books, to make sure that people understand that there are so many different devices that were used to create this way of thinking. So I am sure that there are many white folks that weren't initially, because again, nobody's born racist, and so I'm sure that there are plenty that not only did they hear these things from other people, but they were scared the first time they saw a Black person, because the imagery that was already ingrained into their brains, because that's where education was and still in some forms is, was ingrained that Black, so that means anything dark complected, is most probably evil. Well, I mean, this is insane. Now, before I move forward, I have to bring up the fact of that a lot of times when I talk to people about these things, they want to mention, and I'm not going to name these folks because I'm not here to promote them, but they want to mention a couple of Black folks that do right-wing media sites, and they speak against race, that racism exists, and they speak against so on. And let me say this: I know some people who do this, and I know that they do it for the money. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who does that is. There may be some Black folks that are just 100% just don't think that racism exists. They're just as blind as some other folks. To those folks, I continue to pray for them, and I pray for their families, because when their kids grow up, boy, that's going to be tough if they have kids. But all that at the same time, when we talk about, there is a very big market that is open. I actually have already had 2 different people ask me about doing that. Well, would you ever consider talking about the other side, doing it the other way? And to me, especially I believe that God brought me to this point. If you saw the first episode again, you would see that it was tears and hurt and pain that ended up making me start talking on Facebook. Everybody who knows me, if you scroll back through my Facebook before June of this year, I wasn't doing this outwardly. My friends, close circles of people that I would come in contact with, and then we would engage in conversation. If they were strangers, they would know how I feel about this topic. They would know how and understand what I think about racism. But I wasn't out here doing it like this. And but again, I've already been spoken to by a couple of people who it would be beneficial, probably financially, to do that, and it would open up my following, probably. But then I have to think about principles, and I have to think about morals, and I have to think about values, and I have to say, wait a minute, why am I going to lie to anybody else about what's going on? Because I've lived it, I've experienced it, and if I've experienced it, then I know that all of my darker brothers and sisters have experienced it probably worse than I have. So why would I take that knowledge, knowing that those things exist, and knowing what about my father and his family, and then what happened between my mom and him, which she's going to explain to you because she's going to come on for an episode soon. Hi, Mom, I love you. Hey, Dad, I love you. Happy birthday again. But my dad's birthday was yesterday. Awesome. But anyways, so why would I then, shut this down and then open up some website saying, Trumpian type of things? That just doesn't make any sense. And so everybody who does follow this and who is enjoying this and who is learning something from it and being able to share this stuff, please know that you don't have to worry about me doing that, because I will not. I won't do that to the blessings that God has given me. So, and anybody who does, that's them, man. Hey, there's hustles out there. And so people are taking advantage of them. I know a couple sisters that do it. I know a couple brothers that do it. And everybody's got choices to make, and they're going to live with those things, and they're going to have consequences for them. And I just hope and pray that things work out for the best. But everybody can tell you, like I said, that systemic racism exists. It's obvious, and even from every system, from manufacturing to politics to education systems to political systems to judicial systems to, if you name it, law enforcement, police officers, there's chiefs and heads of departments and all those things that I don't know what the different titles are called. There's mayors and governors, white and black, and other ethnicities that all are admitting, corporations and CEOs and so on. There is every demographic and every system that is admitting and coming to the table admitting that this exists. And it's not just money grabs, and there are some of those too. But when you have so many people admitting it, and you have so many people protesting peacefully against it, and then you have us who have to endure it and have endured it for hundreds of years, then and there's only this one fragment of society that denies it, then what's the old thing? It walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. So I don't want to cheapen racism by calling racism a duck, but sometimes you got to say different things so that people can kind of get it. So, and I do pray that folks start to get it. But going back to what I was saying, so when people talk about reverse racism, when we talk about racism itself, it was something that was initiated by white people against black people. Period. Exclamation point. There's nothing else that, I mean, there's plenty more that needs to be said about it. You need to understand it. You need to study it. You need to know it. Whether you're black, white, or other, or whatever. You got to understand it. You need to know it because you need to be helping fight it. You need to be helping fight racism and not sitting around talking about it doesn't exist and blah, 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 because it does exist. But when this was started, it was perpetuated upon black people by white people. It was not perpetuated by black people onto white people, which means that anything that we did in retaliation, whether it's a peaceful protest, or some people get aggravated and they don't know how to do it, so they might be violent, or they might be, it might damage property, or they might, whatever the case is. Those things are products of it. It's like me punching somebody in the face and then telling them how they got to respond to that. That's basically what white America and the systemic racism, this whole structure that was built from the ground up, from the founding of this country, that's what you're telling black people, is you're saying, well, yeah, you've been killed, you've been raped, you've been enslaved, you've been oppressed, you've had your families torn apart, you've been thrown into impoverished society environments. We don't make sure your neighborhoods are funded properly. We don't make sure your schools are funded properly. We don't make sure that there's socioeconomical routes and avenues available to you. We don't make sure that there's any avenues available to you. If you find it, good luck. And so if that's how, and you know this because every time you hear a story about a black person who made it, it's this very dynamic story. Why is that? Because it's damn dynamic to try to get there like that from those environments, those neighborhoods, those avenues. So basically, you're saying that yes, white America imposed that way of life upon us, or that way of death upon us, and yet we're supposed to just forget about it. Oh, yeah, leave it in the past. But it's not the past. It is the present. Some people see it now. There's a small amount of from the billions that don't see it. And those people are the people that I'm speaking to. But I'm also speaking to those of you who are acknowledging that it exists, but you're doing nothing about it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm telling you to do it. I'm telling you that not because I say so, but because your conscience, your heart, your spirit, your goodness, because all of us are born with that. God made us all with that. So because of that, your goodness that God made you, should entice you to want to make sure that racism and systemic racism is not imposed upon any living, breathing human being. Now that, my friends, that is just fact. And that is just something that I'm hoping that this will help you to do. And I'm hoping that that if it's not me, some other avenue, some other black person, or maybe some other white person who's talking to you about it will spark something inside of you. But something has to do it because it can't continue to just be perpetrated and perpetuated through society and just be some, it's the people saying it's happening and they're feeling it, they're hurting and they're dying from it. And then the other group is just oblivious or intentionally oblivious and saying, oh, we're not going to do nothing about, that it doesn't exist. And then there's the other group that straddles the fence and just sits around and says, oh yeah, that exists, but it's not my problem. So that's not the way to cure the problem. That's not the way that the talking about it or the protesting about it is going to happen. Stop. And that's to those of you who want to just be stubborn about it, look, it's very simple. If you want the conversation to go away, if you want the protests to go away, then pick up a book or pick up some ears and some heart and listen to the stories that are being told. Listen to the knowledge that is being spoken by people other than me, and choose to listen. Choose to let it soak in. Choose to open your eyes and look, and then see that, oh snap, that's really happening. That really happened. That really happens, and it will happen and continue to happen until something's done about it. And then get up and do something to help the fight. And then you won't have to hear about it. You see, if everybody gathers together, galvanizes, and works to get rid of it, then it won't exist to be talked about. So, it's a huge fight, and maybe people feel guilty. Maybe people feel like, what can they do? Well, if you need to know things, talk to us. Talk to us. I'm sure that we can help you out in that in that category to help you figure out something that can be done. We can tell you something that's needed. But again, understanding that this is not something that was perpetuated by black people against white people. So, if there is any reverse racism or racism from black folk to white folk, it is only a product of what we've endured. It's not. Something that we just initiate. We pop out of the womb and say, "Hey, you know what? Screw whitey," or anything like that. That's not what happens. So I want everybody to get a grips of that and understand that we need to acknowledge what's going on, where it comes from, and what it is, what's at the root of this, and how do we tackle it. And the only way that's going to happen is together, first through conversation, then processing those conversations, and then turning those processes to actions. All right, so I wanted to get that out of the way, which I guess I'm not getting it out of the way because I will be speaking about that probably continuously for moons and moons and moons to come. So let's see. So one of the first things that I'm going to get into, or next things that I'm going to get into, is a couple of posts. I guess I'll start with, okay. So there is a person who is a friend of mine on Facebook, and again, every post that I mention and the people that I mention that to follow, I always speak to them. Either if I can speak to them on the phone, that's great. If the only option I have is to engage within their text things. I keep forgetting what that's called, stems or something. But anyways, if that's the only way that I can do it, then I do that. But I definitely make sure that. Oops, hold on one second. I'm getting a little bit of a delay. Hold on. I will be right back. Give me 2 seconds. Love you guys. Hold on. Welcome to Food for Action. All right. So, okay. So I'm back. Sorry about that. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? One of my scenarios is still going on, so sorry for the delay for you guys on YouTube and so on. Okay. So Facebook is back. All right. So YouTube kept on going, and Twitch kept on going, but Facebook went down. I also have new internet service now, so things are working way better. But um, but still, I guess there's going to be an occasional, you know, slow whatever when you're doing this thing. So my apologies. Okay. So what I was saying before I had to restart is that there is a person for the. This is the first Facebook scenario that we're going to inform you of, and again, everything that I talk about when it comes to Facebook users, it is definitely talked about with those people before I mention it online, even though I don't necessarily have to do that because they are putting this stuff out there on Facebook and I am their friend, so they are at the that's their choice to put that stuff out there with the friends that they have on Facebook. But out of common courtesy, hey folks, hey folks, hey folks again. So out of common courtesy, I reach out to whoever makes these posts, and once I watch how they're progressing, which I do this massively throughout the week, and when I watch how they're progressing, then I comment on the things. I give a little bit of an opinion, and then of course the trade-offs begin. And so what you uncover through this, and I guess some people would call this part of it race baiting. What I do on my Facebook stream is not that, but when I see people speaking about things in racist terms, then I don't think that I was the one who was doing the race baiting. I think that was that person doing the race baiting, although they just didn't expect a black person to be watching or paying attention. Because in this particular stream that I'm going to speak about, there was not one black person involved in this. Usually there's maybe one or two black people, but in this particular stream, there were not any. Now, this is the from the page of a gentleman named Ron Cook, RONCOOK. He may be your friend on Facebook. Please check your Facebook pages. Again, one of the things that I also started doing before I read this off, but one of the things I also did is I started reaching out to some of the people that are just unanimously, anonymously, but I guess it's not anonymously. So as far as I guess I don't tell them why I'm asking, but I reach out to some of the people that are supposed to be friends of the people who are making these posts, because this particular person wanted to, and I'll read it to you shortly, but he had to express that that he had more friends than I do, or a bigger following, or something like that. He said, "I'll read it to you shortly." But his when we were talking about this subject, and so I went ahead and contacted some of those people. I contacted about 70 something of the people that were friends of his, or the quote unquote Facebook friends, and those people claimed to not know who he was. So it's something that I'm aware of as well, and most of Facebook communities are aware of the fact that we get these random suggestions, and we get these random, hey, it's a friend of this person or that person, or you look and you've got like 40, 50, 100 friends in common, and so you just go ahead and like the person, and so you don't really know each other. You don't know anything about each other, which is the saddest thing, but also at this point in time is one of the most one of the most well, I'll say it easy. One of the best things about this whole process, when discovering people that have racist leanings or thinkings or principles, is that what you're finding out is that you can find out these things just by reading these stems, reading these posts, and how they interact with each other. And again, so on this particular post, the guy's name is Ron Cook, and Ron Cook, he says, and I believe he's from some part of South Carolina, which might be why me and 200 and something other people in common are friends with this person. But again, like I said, I don't believe that all those people know who he is, because I didn't know who he was, and the 70-something people that I contacted that are mutual friends of ours didn't know who he was. So that's the life of Facebook and how we all get so many friends, I guess. But anyways, so Ron Cook says, he makes a post, and this is from yesterday. He says, Joe Biden just announced #1 woman of color in America as VP. Now, this is before the announcement of Kamala Harris. So this, he posts, Joe Biden just announced #1 woman of color in America as VP, and what the name that he wrote underneath was Aunt Jemima. Now, if we understand who Aunt Jemima was, has been vastly thrown around as a joke, a racist joke, when talking about black women or a black woman in the kitchen and so on. I mean, just, a slave woman, and just so many things. And that's not to say that is who the person was, although we can get into that on another day, because I'm going to talk about another bunch of different people who had names that are associated with things that are negative, but the person themselves wasn't actually negative, and so we'll get into that on another day. But the point is that this was definitely a racist colored joke. Again, let me repeat the joke by Ron Cook. He said, Joe Biden just announced #1 woman of color in America as VP, Aunt Jemima. So the first two posts that follow that, one, this person, her name was Cheryl Lute, and she said that wasn't funny. And then Ron Cook said, Cheryl Lute, maybe not to you, hi. So usually there's a speech problem in a lot of these things, but Cheryl Lute, maybe not to you, hi, but I'd like my buddy there, I think. So I think what he's trying to say is, unlike my buddy there, I think it's hysterical, because he says, then he ends with saying, I think it's hysterical. So at this point of the conversation, there was 23 people involved in the conversation and only 6 comments. So after he said, buddy thinks it's hysterical, then Ron Cook then told Cheryl Lute again, getting the feedback now, Cheryl, looks like you're outvoted. Everybody else thinks it's hysterical. Okay, this is the same Aunt Jemima joke as VP. Then a Glenn Deal jumps in and says, at least she will be employed again. Now, if they can find Uncle Ben a job, that's 2 unemployed off the welfare lines. So this is all white people thinking this is funny. And then, of course, this is the guy that I end up really communicating with. He was the only one who really spoke up at the time. Actually, Ron did a couple of times too, but I'll show you the difference in the communications. Tim Counts is the next person that jumps in, and he says hysterical after Glenn Deal's comment. So that again is Tim Counts, like as in counting, but count with an S. And then Ula Paris then just puts a bunch of laughing faces. Let me be specific. 4 laughing faces. Okay? So then I went ahead, and before saying anything, I went ahead and started to take down the names of all of the people who took part in this conversation on Facebook, the Facebook page of Ron Cook. So be mindful that you can look at this later on, so you can go back and you can find out if any of these people are friends of yours on Facebook, and don't delete them. Just look out. Just watch what these people are saying. Because when people are thinking that racist jokes are still funny, when all of these hateful things are going on in the country, when all of this racism is being fought against and people are still doing that. And again, the whole community that I'm going to read to you is all white people, and they're talking amongst themselves and thinking that this is hilarious. So let me go through and tell you how each person commented and what their names were. So we have Susan Hardesty Morrison, or Morrissey, part of it is blocked off. She laughed. Me and her have 257 mutual friends. Mindy Boone Lynn laughed. She has 246 mutual friends with me. Manning Westbury laughed. 546 mutual friends. Regina Starnes, or Starness, not sure, laughed. We only have 6 mutual friends. Summer Dawn Isom, that's I-S-O-M, not N. She laughed, and we have 99 mutual friends. Edward Massey, we're not friends. He laughed. Keith Pritchard, we have 7 mutual friends. He laughed. Harold Benfield, we have 2 mutual friends. He laughed. Mignon Simpson Simmons, it's a woman. We have 7 mutual friends. She laughed. Again, they're laughing at a racist joke about Biden picking a VP, and the name they used was Aunt Jemima, and they used, and then there was followed up with a racist joke about Uncle Ben. Both black people, emblems shown as maybe house slaves or cooks or servants, but on food products. And since this whole thing has gone crazy with the racism protest, both have been removed from those products. But again, they're still believing that these jokes are funny and appropriate somehow or another. Gerald Burnett, we have 18 mutual friends. He laughed. William Ash, we have 291 mutual friends. He just put a thumbs up, so maybe he didn't want to be as forward or outright with it. Ben Smith we have 1 mutual friend. He had a thumbs up. Brian Padrick, Padrick, we have 127 mutual friends. He thought it was funny. He laughed. Richard Burke, 32 mutual friends, thought it was funny. Ronald Lute, again, 1 mutual friend, a laugh. Eddie Granger, 100 friends. He put a thumbs up. Mary Ledbetter, 414 mutual friends with me. She laughed. So, so far, what I'm trying to express is that all of these people that took part in this racist joke, stem or post and following stems, are supposed to be friends with me and maybe some other black people on their pages, and yet amongst themselves, they're having these racist joke conversations. Jerry Cahill, 2 mutual friends, thumbs up. Johnny Bailey, 2 mutual friends, thumbs up. David Spates, 76 mutual friends, laugh. Deborah Millam, 116 mutual friends, and a laugh. Camille Belton, Estes, 33 mutual friends, and a laugh. Verl H. Matthews, where are we at? Matthews, 249 mutual friends, and a thumbs up. So at that point, after discovering all of those people, and I'm sure since then, I've gone back and forth with a few of these people, just trying to invite them on and trying to express different things about, how it's not funny. But I did let them know, like I told you, that I was going to mention this, speak about this, and all the people that took part in this on this episode. So I followed this up, and I wrote to them. I said, Ron Cook, Glenn Deal, Tim Counts, and Ula Paris, who were the first people who actually engaged in the conversation, showing support of this racist joke. I said, I have a pretty good sense of humor. This is my message to them. I have a pretty good sense of humor. I'm a comedy show, comedy movie connoisseur. You can ask anyone who knows me, which most people know. I love comedies. I can laugh all day. It doesn't seem like it when I do these things, but that's because it's serious. It's nothing to laugh at. So anyways, but then I go on, I said to them, but for some reason, this little conversation doesn't seem remotely humorous. But to make sure I'm not just being hypersensitive, I'm going to share this and the names of all the folks engaged in liking and laughing at this unwitty banter on my show, Food for Action, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Wednesday at 7 p.m. I took screenshots, so I won't leave anything or anyone out. Just curious what the reactions will be. I'll let you know the outcome. Be safe out there, and God bless. And then Tim Counts responds. And Tim Counts says, and this is again about the same racist joke that Ron Cook made on Facebook, who is probably mutual friends to many of you who, because I know that at least every week I have upwards of 150 people who end up visiting this, and then afterwards many, many more, and like 200 plus and 300 plus and so on. So the numbers, they go on and on each episode. I do this Wednesdays and Sundays, so I'm sure some people just do Wednesdays, some people do Sundays, maybe some people do both, not sure. I also promote a lot of this through different posts on Instagram, which there are thousands of likes and clicks and views and so on, and same thing for the page for Food for Action. But to resume, at this point, after I made that comment and let them know that I was going to share this with you guys, Tim Counts said, Obi Morant, go for it, exclamation point, better yet, comma, why don't you have us on live? Should be fun. PM me and let's see, set it up. So, of course, that was the intention, was to definitely get somebody to say, I will join you live. And because usually I invite these folks, just like the old guy that I'm not going to mention his name because he doesn't even comment anymore. I don't know if it was the last show that made that happen, but he's still on my, as a friend in my list, but he's not commenting anymore. Maybe somebody talked to him or who knows. But he's still promoting the same hateful stuff on his own page, but that's his business. So anyways, so Ron Cook also said to me, Obi Morant, never heard of you, brother, but I, for one, could give a, oh, this is Ron Cook, I forgot. After Tim Count said his thing, Ron, the person who wrote the racist joke on Facebook, he said, Obi Morant, never heard of you, brother, but I, for one, could give a rat's ass. I promise you my following is bigger than yours. Remember, I mentioned that before I started this. He actually said that his following is bigger than mine. But what I also found out through checking into some of those friends and sending messages to some of those friends, just asking them, hey, do you know who this Ron Cook person is? And they said no. So it was no after no after no after no. So obviously he got so many friends just because of doing the whole generic friending people thing, suggestion, and I guess he just wanted a bunch of friends. So whatever, that's up to him. But the point is that they don't know who he is. So I hope they're going to find out now. Anyways, he follows that up with, after he tells me his following is bigger than mine, he said, and a whole lot more humorous. But I'll be glad to debate the racial inequality, which I guess he meant inequality, of pressuring a man to have a black woman vice president. So he thinks that people pressured Joe Biden to have a black president. So you guys can debate that amongst yourselves. But again, I'm seeing that two people now are saying, hey, let's debate something about this whole thing. So I was like, so it turned from that racist joke to this. So again, they want to stray away from the wrong that they did through the racist jokes, and now they want to talk about other things that are not related to that joke. But that's fine with me because, as you guys know, I talk about anything and all things that have to do with this racism and race and systemic racism in this country that hurts, kills, harms black women, black men, black youth in America and all over the world. So we know that this is what we're fighting against. And so any topic that is underneath the housing or the covering of racism, we're going to talk about it. And I invite those conversations. So again, but you guys already know that. So he finishes up, he'll have a date about that, and then he says, we have a black president, worst president history. I guess he meant in history of the country. But that's right, he was only half black, so you still got a chance at having. I had to switch pages, and recopy this because some of what he was saying got cut off. So he said, but that's right, President Barack, he's referring to, was only half black, so you still got a chance at having good Afro-American first president. So that tells you this person's mentality already. Hey, is that really your picture, really? So I don't know what he's talking about pictures. Is he talking about my picture on Facebook? I have no idea. I'll probably miss your show. I've got something very important going on then. I'm honor guard at a veteran's funeral, something I'm sure you would know nothing about since you never served your country in any way, in any capacity. But here's a riddle for you, bro. What rhymes with duck's stew? So, and obviously, I'm witty enough to understand what he meant by that. And of course, as you saw how it went from responding in a trying to be a rebuttal-ish way to saying he didn't care first, then trying to rebuttal using something that was not even related to the improper racist joke that he told, and then he transformed that into to President Obama, who he wanted to cast aspersions on, and then say something so racist as "we got our first Afro-American president," and then he transferred then to him being going to attend a veteran's funeral because he's in the honor guard. And that I don't know anything about serving America. So let me first say, no, I have not served in any military. I wasn't able to, but I did serve this country in another way. I've been in ministry. I've done outreach for over 20 some odd years, close to 30. And so there's more than one way to serve and service the country. And I have done and still do my part that way. And through this, I also do it now, even though I am sick with chronic Lyme disease and unable to do certain other things. So, but of course, as I do with most of these things, I just capture the conversations. I want to translate those conversations to you so that you understand what these people are saying behind our backs. And then you can make your own conclusion from that. But I'm not going to engage in negative, sparring, because that to me is not productive. And I'm not going to find out the true reason. I'm not going to be able to find out the true cause of why this person feels the way they do, if they choose to express it or not, or I'm not going to be able to encourage them to express it if I engage in that kind of banter, which is just not productive at all. And so I choose to not do that, and I encourage anybody here to not do that as well. Engage in the conversations, but do not be negative back when they are negative to you, because that just makes both people wrong and not productive, and it convolutes the whole message. And so nobody walks out with a chance of gaining anything from those kind of conversations. But so then I let them continue. because also I was doing research at the time, and I was answering other messages that people were sending me for the week. There was people asking me definitions of this, that, and the other, and they were asking me opinions about this and that, and then also I'm managing the posts on my Instagram and so on. So, and then doing research for the new internet, and anyway, so many things doing for this. And so then Ron Cook says, "Hey, brother, are you going to start your show with the Black National Anthem? Oh, why don't you watch the Hodge twins? Oh, on whatever. Now they're funny." So I didn't even want to say their names. I just forgot. But anyways, now that I did say the name, those are two of the people that that I have, people that are in the same industry that can confirm that the things that they post and the things that they say may not be the actual things they believe. They're actually servicing a market, and they're getting paid from doing it. Now, can we be definitive in saying that they don't believe any of the content that they're saying? No. But from the circle that I know now, and if you look at my Instagram, you'll see that I know a lot of people that belong to the radio markets that do these kind of shows, and so and the private sector that do the podcasts and so on, that are highly viewed, hundreds of thousands and millions and so on when they have those kind of numbers, and these folks definitely are feeding a market that is not that saturated. I mean, as I told you a little bit ago, I already had two people approach me about, what would I think of because they liked the way that I talk, they liked the way that I express things, and what would I think about expressing this from the opposite angle. And again, as I said earlier, I just could not, in good conscience, see myself. I have a daughter, and I have family. My mother is white, my dad is black. I know the struggles. I know the stories of friends and family, and myself having experienced it. And there's no way that I could sell that out for some cash. God is going to provide for me, and He does. He provides for me what I need, and so I wouldn't do that, and I hope that is a respectable position to folks. But if it's not, that's too bad, because it's about truth. I was watching my pastor earlier today, and he was talking about in all things that we do, it has to be truth, man. It has to be about truth. And so I would not go out and speak on the other things. Could I do it? Absolutely, because I could take all the information that I have and then just take the opposite side, and it would probably be easy as pie, and I'd probably make a lot of money doing it, because as a black man, looking at it as I am with the history that I have, I'm sure that that I'd have probably a lot more followers following me now, because usually people who follow these kind of things, when they're being negative or hateful, when people follow hate speech, which this is not, but if I was to be one of those people, usually a lot of people follow that, because a lot of people with, I don't want to call names, but let's just say people with nothing better to do usually find it easy to follow, to be followers of stuff that has no validity or stuff that's negative, because it makes them feel important. It makes them feel attached to something. I don't get it. I'm trying to figure that part out still. That's why I talk to a lot of people, but they, for some reason, feel that that's something to do. I don't know. I don't get it. It sucks, but oh well. All right. So let me move forward. So yes. So I got this. So what happened next is really funny, because then I didn't say anything else again yet. I wanted to wait. I wanted to let both of these guys, they're saying stuff. I wanted to let them speak. And so then Tim Counts came in a timely fashion right after Ron, and he goes, your July 19th show had 19 views and you have 11 followers. Again, have me on. I'll stay the whole hour. We can take calls. We can Zoom, whatever you like. I am serious. Put your money where your mouth is. So this was beautiful because then I was actually able to now address these guys again. So I started with a general thing. I said, I mentioned all the names again: Tim Counts, Ron Cook, Glenn Deal, Ula Parrish. You all are invited to come on Food for Action every Wednesday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Let me know when you're ready. We can talk about whatever you want. Your opinions, thoughts, views, experiences, as it relates to racism in America, are invaluable. Let me know when, and we can make it happen. Be safe and God bless. Okay? Then I had to make sure that I addressed these individual comments. So to Tim Counts, who had just finished saying that I had 19 views and whatever. Well, I just started attaching some of my videos to YouTube. I made a new channel. I broke that away from my personal YouTube channel, and so I wanted one strictly just for these live streams. So there's not a lot of people following there. Most of the people follow on here or via the page, and they follow all the posting that I do on Instagram. So you'll see, if you look through all of my live streams and you scroll back on this profile page where you are seeing this broadcast to you now, you will see that each show has, again, like I said, around 150 to upwards of 300 plus. A couple are close to 400 views. I haven't checked actually some of the first ones because of all the work that I have to do on these, the present ones, and so because the topics are getting bigger and bigger. So he didn't get a chance to look, I guess, at Facebook to see for real. So I wrote to him. I said, Tim Counts, you're not looking at the right info. You may want to look at the views on this profile, the followers of the Food for Action page, or the followers, likes, views, etc. of posts on Instagram. You missed some things, sir. Episode 19 is Wednesday. I'll be able to fit you in, or Sunday. So episode 19 is tonight. And so we're hoping that he will stop by. That would be pretty neat. So let's see. Then Ron Cook says, Obi Morant, because I didn't write to him again yet. He said, Obi Morant, we can be all right after the Black Lives Matter guys that made the white couple in New York to get down and kiss their boots. AJ, I don't know what that means. Sorry. Or right after the people of color is Chicago, which I guess means in Chicago, wrote on the bridges, kill Whitey, or baby, right after you report that more blacks have been killed by blacks just in Chicago than in 20 years of the war with Afghanistan and Iraq just in the last 2 months. You're an idiot, bro. This is what he says to me. So again, one person is trying to engage in a conversation to encourage a conversation, just as I encourage a conversation, which was cool. And then the other guy just wants to spew out nonsense and name calling. Then Ron Cook said, Food for Action. Here he goes again with his jokes. Food for Action. Are we having chicken again? See what I'm saying? Then Ron Cook says, Tim, this guy don't have any money, bro. Not till the new stimulus comes through could be weeks. So again, this guy just continues to say stuff. So I responded to Ron Cook after his continued racist jokes and calling names. I told him, I said, Ron, see you Wednesday or Sunday at 7 p.m., Food for Action. Then Ron Cook answered, Obi Morant, there's another riddle for you. What rhymes with Cupid, you moron? So, and then I wrote to Ron again, save your energy. Let's talk about this live. Food for Action, Wednesdays and Sundays at 7, right here. And then Marcus Blount wrote to Ron Cook, "Kill Whitey," said no man ever. Uh, and Ron Cook then wrote to me. Let's see what else. Must be a really short show. Don't you have to be out looting after 8? So this is your Ron Cook. I guess he's just all about racism, and that's what he continues to do even after caught in the act. Ron Cook says to Marcus Blount, "You might want to tune in to some news that ain't CNN or MSNBC, bro. You're not even in the loop." Then Ron Cook says, "And I'll just give you one black man that said kill Whitey. That would be Richard Pryor." This is what he resorts to. Then Tim Count, he starts to almost be kind of nice, and he says, "Obi Morant sounds good. Let me know," after I sent that invitation to them. Let's see. Then I put to Tim Counts, "If you join the conversation Wednesday, type something to let me know you're here, and I will respond as quickly as I possibly can." Because, of course, I have to keep the show going. And so far, as I see, he has not shown up. So anyway, so that is just one mere conversation that addresses one racist joke of a person who is supposed to be a friend of mine on Facebook. And again, this goes to show you, as I say every week, you guys need to make sure that you're viewing, that you're looking at your Facebooks, that you're looking through to see who your friends are, see what they're saying. In this climate that we're in right now, where racism is so in the forefront, we have to make sure that we understand, especially with social media, who is attached to us. And if you are not a person who is either activist minding or for the fight against racism in any way, shape, or form, if you're not one of those people, then maybe I would suggest that, and if you're not feeling, if you're not into fight, maybe you need to disconnect from those people from your Facebook. The reason that I want to point these people out is to make sure that we're aware of what folks are saying and what image you might have of them from maybe how you became friends, or maybe you don't even realize that the person is your friend because of the weird way that friends are accumulated on Facebook. It's a very interesting thing. I every week I go through and I erase another maybe 15, 20 or more people from Facebook so that I can accept friend requests from other people. At one point, I was maxed out, and people were saying they couldn't request me because I had 5,000 friends. I guess for regular people like me, 5,000 is the limit. Maybe if I was a superstar, then I'd have more. I'd be able to have more. I don't know how that works. But anyways, so that's what happens. And I'm going to continue every episode. We're going to at least unearth at least one person, if not more, depending on how intense the discussions, posts, or whatever are. That was a full one, so I'm not going to go through the second one that I was going to go through tonight. I'll save that one for the next episode. So again, the point is, be mindful of who your friends are. I encourage anybody who is standing against racism to become familiar with these people. Don't erase them as friends. You might want to put your settings in a way that their posts may not show up on your what's that thing called? Not your profile, but your that part that everybody can see. Anyways, you might want to make sure that you edit your settings on that, but don't erase the person, because you want to be able to go back and you want to be able to look at these things. When you spot or hear about these people having racist conversations, you want to know what they're saying so you can understand the dynamic for yourself. Me saying it and reading the things to you like that, I try to to do my best, but the only thing I can really do is read it to you and try to interpret things because it's broken up into sections the way that the stems go. I even in copying these things down, I have to go back and and order them up again because you know how once a conversation is so full, then it breaks things down into previous comment and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of juggling that I have to do that. But if you read them for yourself, you can see in real time what was happening during these conversations and why and why these things, when you hear them and see, you can see how ugly it is. The way that I read it to you, it might not even sound as ugly as it really is. Although to say that Joe Biden just announced #1 woman of color in America as VP Aunt Jemima is probably self-explanatory that that's racist. And then Tim Count's comment about Uncle Ben, so basically, ugly is ugly, racist is racist. There's no denying those. I'm not gonna. I see a lot of things that are racist sounding, and but they're not as direct, and so I'm not gonna. I wouldn't go over those so much. I hope that you guys are just doing that on your own. But as far as it concerns out and out racist jokes, those, when I see them, I'm definitely going to put it on blast. I'm definitely going to read it to you guys live. I'm definitely going to encourage you to go and find out who all the people are that took part. I'm going to read out the list of anybody that commented, anybody that liked, or anybody that laughs at any of those kind of conversations. And they can explain it to you if you ask them, or of why they took that stance. But the important part is that people, we have to make sure that people aren't believing that it's just okay or that nobody's hearing, because we can't judge them, but yet we can judge for ourselves what we choose to sign on to in belief systems. We can judge what we believe is fair treatment, bad treatment, racist treatment, offensive in nature, what have you, and make sure that that we make other people aware. That's doing our due diligence, is to make sure that when we see things like this going on, we have the courage to let the word out and let folks know that that people that we have as friends, mutual friends, are actually saying these kind of nasty, hateful, racist things and thinking that it is a joke. Racism is not a joke. There's no joke about racism. There's nothing funny about oppression. There's nothing funny about black lives dying at the hands of white police officers or in any racist act. There's nothing funny about those things happening, and so to joke about those things ever, not just now, but to joke about those things ever, and especially as harsh as it might sound, but especially if you are white and you are telling jokes about black people that way, and then engaging in that kind of banter when you're talking to me, like this guy did that I expressed to you and showed you. And if anybody wants to see any of this stuff, please let me know. I can direct you to the actual post, the dates, and so on, because I did screenshot them, as well as I saved the notifications of when I saw that they have made those comments. So the way that I usually find these things is because, excuse me, of literally just going through my timeline, and they're right there. And you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing. Look, if you have a different topic, subject that's close to your heart, that you feel that you're called to fight against or to bring people's attention to, you can scroll through your Facebook, and I guarantee you will find somebody that is committing that act right on Facebook. And and they might just be your friend, and you didn't know. And that's because we're not being wise with Facebook. We're not being wise with the tool, and we're not studying to make sure that we understand what's going on within this. We're just having fun with it, and I'm not saying don't have fun with it. I'm saying don't just have fun with it. Also understand what's going on with it. Hopefully, everybody in this world that is alive, that breathes air, has some cause that they feel tied to in some way, and for that cause, I'm sure that it is addressed within the boundaries of Facebook. So it's very interesting. But yeah, so keep your eyes open, keep on the lookout. This is important. This is important. This goes on, and it's a sad state of events that it's acceptable to some folks, and I even though I see it, I still don't understand. Sorry, I still don't understand why it is so acceptable to some people to believe that that they should be spewing that kind of hate out of their mouths or out of their fingertips on Facebook. They think it's fine to do, and I don't see it. I don't understand it at all, and I hope that that God will cure people of this urge, through using somebody, and hopefully I'm part of that solution as well. But anyways, all right, so got a little old school music on now because I was tired of the silence. So one of the things that I want to go through now is, let me check my notes to make sure I've mentioned everything so far. Oh, here's what I wanted to do. So something happened this week. Actually, not one something, but several somethings happened this week. One of the things, excuse me, sorry. One of the things touched my system a lot because somebody questioned to me, asked me the question. Actually, it wasn't just one somebody. Probably in the period of maybe 3 hours, a couple of days ago, I had gotten a question about racism or systemic racism within police departments, and so I go through and I check different cities and states and the police departments within those cities and states, and I started with major cities, and I discovered that at least one, if not more, representatives of those police departments, be it a spokesperson for the police department, be it whatever those attorneys are, that union representatives for police department, rather it was a chief of police, rather it was a attorney general that was speaking on behalf of the police department, in all major cities, not one did I find in any major city. Now I'll go next, I'll do more homework, and I'll go to smaller townships and towns and so on, because I'm sure we'll find lots there. But in any major city in this country, there is at least one representative, either a chief of police, a higher up in the police, like I said, a union rep, or a attorney general type person who said that they acknowledge that there is an element of racism within the police department, that there was an element of systemic racism in government and the police department. And so it takes a lot of courage, I guess, these days for them to do that. But every major city, not every major city. And when I say major cities, I'm talking about New York. I'm talking about Los Angeles. I'm talking about Dallas. I'm talking about Houston. I'm talking about Seattle. I'm talking about Boston. I'm talking about Chicago. I'm talking about any kind of what is known as a metropolitan, Atlanta, so on. So those are what I'm talking about that I went to. And every single one admits to having some element of racist police within the department. And so after learning that, then I found out that there are actually these things, and you can Google it. And then, and right after I found this out, I saw an article. It just popped up in my Google thing. But there are actually police gangs. And this is widely known and acknowledged by the police departments, that there are what is known as police gangs. And those folks do pay more attention and profile Black and brown people and Hispanic people, and more than they do any other race of folk. And the police stations that these folks belong to, they don't believe that they have a way to rid themselves of these things. And I found that really disturbing, because I don't understand there in any other business or system that exists, rather it's police, rather it's judicial, rather it's in politics. When racist thing happens, you see it all over the TV now. If somebody posted a racist thing, painting in blackface, or if somebody did some racial slurs on Facebook, or somebody did whatever, those people are getting rid of them. They get rid of them out of Senate, get rid of them out of Congress, get rid of them out of school, get rid of them out of... Every place does that. So they do it from within. And they do their best, at least outwardly, the outward show of doing their best to get rid of that element. But for some reason, police departments can't. So out of every job, every business in the whole wide United States, the police department is the only departments that can't. I'm so confused by that, and that baffled me. And so I kept on reading and kept on reading. And if you do it yourself, you can go to any .gov of any state, any city, and you will find that you will see stories from within. You will see accusations. You will see lawsuits that they had to settle. You will see murders and so on. In every major city, you will see that these things have gone on. And for some reason, the police, until just recently, they started arresting a couple because of cameras and technology and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and some of these people, although they still need to do something about those murderers in their police department about them. I think they fired one, but 3 they still haven't done anything to. So and I'll keep posting their names. But for some reason, the police department seems to be the only thing across the United States that doesn't have the ability to remove known racists or people that commit racist acts. It's the only place in the United States. I'm confused. This is supposed to be protect and serve. So you should be the first business, the first system that would see to it that you rid yourself of anything that has to do with racism. How can you be the last? So because that happened, it really it saddened me and frustrated me and angered me at the same time. And so what I did is I constructed a letter that I posted to Facebook, and it was hard to post it because it was a little bit long, and then I had to break it up into pieces and then fit it onto pages on, and then fit it onto Instagram, so it looks kind of funny the way I have to do it. But it is a letter that I am actually getting drafted up. So I have somebody in a legal position who is getting this letter drafted up, and I will have that letter first because you have to start somewhere. I will start with all major considered metropolitan cities, police departments. But I wanted to share it on Facebook first, which I did a couple days ago, and I shared it also on Instagram, and I shared it on the Food for Action page. And so the letter, I am going to read that to you now, if you don't mind. Or if you do mind and you don't want to hear it, then I'm sorry. Again, I love police officers. Any police officer that is doing the protect and serve thing and not the racist thing, I love you. Any police officer that is standing up for what is right and standing against racism and violence against black people, black men, black women, and black youth, I am all for you. I love you. I have many police friends and detectives that are friends and family members that are police. And so I never would say that all police are a problem. But in this letter, I think I did a good job of not making it too long, but describing what probably most people, but at least myself, believes about police and what should be done. So this is my letter. I call it Dear the Police. I said, Dear policemen and policewomen all over the United States of America and all over the world. As for when it goes out to the different police departments, it will say the name of that police department instead of this overview that I put on Facebook and Instagram. But anyway, so it says, I said, I love all the police, and I put the police in quotation marks. I love all the police who protect and serve, and the police, the quotes again, who put their lives on the line every day to help us all. But there's that other police element that exists in most police departments, and they have no regard for black and brown lives. So then I wrote, how about all you amazing, heroic police officers handle and get rid of that harmful, ugly, hate-filled police element? Then black lives can have confidence and pride in and have respect for all police departments. Instead of us having to fear the police, because we don't know which police are good or which police are bad until it's too late, which is unfortunately after we've already been harassed, hurt, or murdered. So black and brown lives are left hurt, incensed, frustrated, and harboring anger towards the police. Because remember, we don't know who's who. If you good police handle the bad element police, we should be able to end this part of the systemic racism conversation. When there's a bad element in most professions and most jobs, most businesses, that element is dealt with from within. Sometimes just so the whole profession or business won't have their name tarnished, their name and reputation tarnished. So again, that's what most people do. I'll continue in a second, but usually a lot of businesses, once they hear about the racism that's within, or teachers or whatever, they hear about a racist act, then they don't want their organization tarnished, the name tarnished, so they get rid of those people. So rather they're doing it for the purposes of selfishness or whatever, not selflessness, but selfishness, or they're just doing it to save their name, then so be it. But at least they're getting rid of it. So I'll read that part again. So the element is dealt with from within, sometimes just so the whole profession or business won't have their name and reputation tarnished. That bad police element must be dealt with. Don't you good police agree? When there's a bad element, sorry. So then I follow that up with, will you good police who protect and serve, who risk and sacrifice so much to protect and serve, please deal with that bad element, police element, so we black people don't have to keep suffering, hurting, and dying at the hands of the police. Quotations. Please, question marks, with a bunch of question marks following it, sincerely and humbly, O.B. Morant. And so again, as I said, this letter is being drafted up, and it will go out to all major police departments. I will also make sure that this letter goes to all of the applicable local news outlets and any local media outlets. It's important. It's short. It's not long. It's not too in depth, but it brings the basic principle that usually when we in the black community talk about police, we're like the police. Maybe everybody does, but this is what we do, and we want to not do that. Just as we ask people to not be racist and say, you guys have a tendency, white people have a tendency to say, when you see protests and then you see some looting and some bad stuff happen, and you blame it on all the protesters. But it's not all the protesters. It's not the peaceful protesters. It's an element that has infiltrated and has done some bad stuff, and then your Trumpian people and that guy that sits in that office will then call everybody Antifa and whatever else he wants to do so that he can put a black cloud. See, there we go again. There's that expression. It's called a black cloud when it means something bad. But anyways, so even I have to rid myself of some of that vocabulary that was put into me growing up. But puts a cloud over all black people or all protesters, and that is a very sad state of events that happens. But again, that's the same thing that happens with police. So and if you don't want that to happen, so what happens with us is that if we see a bad element doing something, we make it known that those people have nothing to do with us, and we make attempts to try to stop those people from being around us. So all I'm asking in that letter is that the police do the same thing. If the police are majority good and doing good things and protecting and serving, like I want to believe, then I also believe that it is their responsibility to get rid of the nasty element. And you know who they are because there's multiple reports about them all in 99.9% of the 99.9% of the time. Anybody who has any history of racist action has had many reports filed upon them or on them, and their actions called to question multiple times, just as the officers that aided and the officer that murdered George Floyd. So we see this over and over again, and again I'll be going over some of those, but we see it over and over again, and it's just very sad. And so we want our police departments to thrive. We want them to be respected, and I'm sure that they want to be respected. And so in order to achieve that, I believe that it is that, especially because they are held to such high regard, and that uniform, just like military, is to be respected. And if that is the case, then if you're asking for all of that respect, then let's make sure that you rid your departments of the bad element that you know exists. If there's somebody that's skating under the radar and you don't know legitimately, then so be it. We'll find out eventually sadly, when they do something that's negative, and hopefully it doesn't cost a life. But you know a lot of these elements, and it is your job, it is your duty, it is your responsibility to our communities, to all communities, but to our communities because of the murder and the mistreatment. It's your responsibility, police departments, to rid your departments of the element of racism within that department. So this letter again that I wrote, that I read to you, I will post it again online a couple of times so that people can see it, and on Instagram and on the page for Food for Action. And but it is being drafted to go to all first. First, it's going to be going to directed to all major metropolitan cities, because I have to hit the big stuff first and then work my way down, because it's only one person, me. And so maybe once more people are involved in this side of it, then I can get more hands on deck. But this letter will go to those major metropolitan cities, and it will go to the media, all media, at least major media in those major cities as well. So your local Fox and your local CBS and ABC and NBC and anything local will get those, as well as your local news stations, and if you still have newspapers, and any reporting agencies. So so I'm excited about that, because maybe it will have no effect, but at least I will have done something else to move in and to add to the direction of fighting racism in another part of the system, which is will hopefully kill another avenue of systemic racism, or at least help aid in doing so. So anyways, the last thing that I'm going to do before I go, like I said, I have to, I want to go ahead and focus remembrance on a Black life that we lost due to police violence. And so this segment, once I get some things going like that, when I get an assistant or something, this segment, because I'm not handy with all that stuff yet, but this segment of the show that I will do every week from this point forward, or every episode, is called Black Lives Murdered. And so the first person that we're going to, I'm going to express to you, I got most of the information from a page that are friends of mine on Instagram, Stories for Justice. You can look them up at Stories for Justice. And they have several of these folks. They have several of the first folks that I'll be talking about, and then I have other sources for some other folks. But the first person is a young man whose name is, and his presence was, Jamarion Robinson. Jamarion Robinson. And it's been 4 years since he died. So I'm going to read to you what they posted about him. Jamarion Robinson was murdered on August 5th, 2016 in East Point, Georgia. Jamarion Robinson was killed 4 years ago in a hail of gunfire. His body had 76 bullet wounds. The shooting happened after at least 14 officers, led by U.S. Marshals, forcibly rammed down the door of Robinson's girlfriend's apartment in order to serve a warrant for his arrest. The officers were heavily armed, and their arsenal included submachine guns. However, they did not wear body cameras. So at this point, there would be like a little caption above my head. But anyway, they did not wear body cameras. East Point police have dash cams, but the department said the officers that day, for some reason, that day drove new cars which did not have cameras installed. Conveniently. Authorities said that they had the warrant because Robinson had pointed a gun at police in a previous encounter. So this is said. This is not something that has been proven. Robinson was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which officers knew, but a mental health professional was not brought along to assist in this encounter. Video filmed by a resident nearby shows officers standing outside, giving verbal commands to drop a weapon and firing into the apartment on and off for about 3 minutes. Let me repeat that. Video filmed by a resident nearby shows officers standing outside giving verbal commands to drop a weapon and firing into the apartment on and off for about 3 minutes. So there was 3 minutes of gunfire, them firing into the apartment off and on. Not shots being fired out, just 3 minutes of shots fired in. Officers said Robinson fired at them 3 times. Let's say this again. Although no officers were injured and no officers can be seen in the video ducking or moving away. So, not proven, no bullets found, no officers moving away, ducking, diving, running, shouting, stop shooting or any of that. But they say Robinson fired at them 3 times. They fired at him for 3 minutes. He had 78 bullet wounds, and they fired for 3 minutes on and off. They said he fired 3 times. So 3 times he fired, and then they thought that they needed to fire back for 3 minutes off and on. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, recovered a handgun at the scene believed to be associated with Robinson. When found, it was damaged and inoperable. After rapid gunfire, officers additionally threw a flashbang grenade into the residence. More gunfire can be heard on the video after that. So, 3 minutes of gunfire off and on. Flashbangs, more firing. But he shot 3 times, they say, but there's no proof because there's no outward bullets whatsoever. Okay. Then this is a comment from his mother. My son was shot 6 times in his right hand, 5 times in his left hand, and all down his arms, his torso, his groin, his thighs, his legs, his feet. His mom, Monteria Robinson, said, Robinson's palms being shot many times indicates that his hands may have been up and or empty, because there's no way that you could have received that many shots in your hand from the angles that they have with something being in them or you're firing a gun. It's actually physically impossible. Evidence showed that after killing Robinson, police handcuffed his hands behind his back. His lifeless body was found by the medical examiner with an oxygen breathing mask on. A private investigator hired by the family also found 2 bullets lodged into the wood floor of the 2nd floor landing in a large pool of blood, indicating someone stood over Robinson's body and fired downward. So that means after all of this, somebody walked up to him and shot him twice more, downwards. Evidence, a blood trail, showed officers dragged his body down the stairs from the 2nd floor to the living room on the lower level. when Robinson's grandmother, Beverly Nixon, arrived after the shooting, she was shown a picture of the suspect that police were looking for, and she stated, "That's not my grandson." After shooting and killing my son, they showed my mother and two brothers a photo of the person they were looking for, and it wasn't even their son. So they went to the apartment looking for someone else, and they shot this man 78 times, followed up for 3 minutes off and on, followed up by flashbangs, followed up by more shooting, hails of bullets, followed up by someone shooting him from above him, on top or above him, downwardly twice, and it wasn't even the right person that they were looking for. None of the officers were found found criminally or administratively at fault for improper use of force. And you people wonder why we are talking about this. So that was Jamarion Robinson, murdered 4 years ago, as of August 5th. This is something that's continued. It's something that's been going on since the beginning of this country. And it is something that continues to this day, as you all know, with the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylors and such. And so I will be speaking about more Black lives murdered in all episodes from this point forward. I send prayers and love to the Robinson family, and I hope that you all will too. It's time to take a stand. All of the white people and my white friends and everybody that I know that's white, anybody that I don't know that's white, if you understand and acknowledge now that this racism thing exists, you must study, you must understand, you must engage with other white folks and let them know that this is real. You must engage with other black folks and find out what you can do to support the fight against racism. I love you all. Until next time, or until Sunday, love people, love your neighbors. Let's fight this racism thing. And again, all you folks that I invited to come on, the invitation is open-ended. Whenever you show up, click, tap in, whatever, and let's have the conversation. Until then, keep the conversation going. Food for action. I'll see you Sunday, same black time, same black channel. God bless you.